sisters and brothers and comrades, that it's great to be with you today. I have to be very careful because I'm scheduled to speak here on Tuesday night about privatization at the Port of Oakland, so I don't want to duplicate, so I have to be careful and abridge my remarks, but I do want to shed some light on that. First of all, let me just say for the record that I stand before you today as a third-generation longshore worker, retired, past Secretary-Treasurer of Local 10. My maternal grandfather started working on the waterfront in 1944. He was a part of the great Black migration of Black folks who were leaving the South for a better opportunity. He started working in the shipyards. Henry J. Kaiser was responsible for a number of Black people coming to the state of California to work. Land of opportunity. It was great opportunity for people leaving the South. He became a longshore worker in 1944. And for many Black men who were a part of that migration, next to Jesus Christ, Harry Bridges, no one could say anything bad about Harry Bridges. This immigrant, not from the South, but from Australia, who was fascinated about the adventures of being a seaman and became one. He was an adventurer. His father was a prominent real estate broker, but he didn't want to follow that path. I believe he had an uncle who was a seaman. Traveled around the world, and what he noticed was the terrible mistreatment of workers along the shore, which is where the name longshoremen came from. They used to call out, "Workers along the shore!" And workers would assemble to bring cargo to market. Longshore workers are critical to the global economy. The food that we eat, the clothes on our backs, shoes on our feet, the automobiles that we drive, the gasoline that we use, all comes off of a vessel, a ship. Steve talked about the issue of red baiting of the ILWU, which continues to this day. The Port of Oakland is the third busiest port on the West Coast. It's been said that we're the fifth busiest in the country. We have never had an ILWU Local 10 member on the Port of Oakland Commission. And we have had ILWU members. Matter of fact, Harry Bridges was on the Port Commission here in San Francisco. But there is a caveat to that. The city of San Francisco decided that it was not going to pursue containerization, that they were going to allow what was once the #1 port city in the world, the city of San Francisco, to forego containerization and to become real estate development and tourism, which is what you see when you drive along the Embarcadero today. There are two terminals that are related to maritime that the ILWU provides labor for, and that is Pier 27, which is the state-of-the-art passenger terminal, and the older passenger terminal, Pier 35. But at one point in San Francisco, all of those piers along the Embarcadero were active, the center of the movement of cargo on the West Coast. That now resides with Los Angeles and Long Beach. It's important for me today to spend some time talking about something that is very important not only to labor history but to American history that is not underscored. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, many of you may have had the opportunity to witness the congressional hearings regarding the subject of reparations. I watched it. And one of the reasons why I was particularly interested in that subject is because ILWU Local 10 has been supportive of the resolution that was introduced by John Conyers calling for the study of reparations, which is what this hearing was about. A friend and comrade and brother of mine by the name of Danny Glover, along with the writer Ta-Nehisi Coates, were speaking at that hearing. One of the things that Danny talked about was growing up in San Francisco in a labor family. Both of his parents worked for the post office. We had a brother here earlier speaking about the post office. But during Danny's remarks, he made reference to the 1934 strike. In particular, Harry Bridges going to the Black community to appeal for support. He said that that was one of the most important moments with respect to the issue of civil rights and equity. He brought our struggle to that discussion. What more people have learned about the ILWU as it relates to the question of the 1934 strike, and in particular, the involvement of the Black community, has really been revealed in the book that has been written by Peter Cole. Dock Worker Power, I believe is the name of the book. And Peter Cole talks about ILWU Local 10 and dock workers in Durban, South Africa. Making the connection between those two struggles. And in so doing, really putting a light on the real contributions of the ILWU in terms of the struggle for human rights, racial justice, and for the upliftment of the working class. I believe that the first thing we need to understand and appreciate about the ILWU and why many of the traditions that have to do with rank and file democracy, fight against fascism, the belief in socialism, I'll say that again, the belief in socialism, Because in the way that we work on the waterfront, we have adopted socialistic principles. Let me tell you how that works. Men and women who work out of the union hall come to get their jobs dispatched. The person who is the first one to receive a job on any given day was the person who did not get a job or was not in the dispatch order the day before. That's a form of socialism. My mother is 90 years old. She'll be 91 in October. She receives 75% of my father's pension. When she goes to the hospital, she pays nothing for her medical visits. She pays nothing for her medication, no matter how much it costs. That's an example of socialism. When we negotiate our contracts with the employer, we look out for those who help build this institution. I want to talk a little bit about the left and its contributions to the ILWU being a union that was so different from the ILA, the International Longshore Association. Harry Bridges, Henry Schmidt, William Bill Chester, the first African American to serve as an international officer, Leo Robinson, who was one of the greatest rank-and-file leaders in the modern era of the ILWU, in my opinion, Howard Keeler, who was well into his 90s. We celebrated Howard just a short time ago, not quite a year. Howard is still with us. What these men have in common was a commitment to rank-and-file democracy and radical traditions. When Harry Bridges and others made the decision based upon the external conditions on the ground that African Americans were crossing that picket line, and they were crossing that picket line for good reason. That was the primary way in which African Americans were able to get hired on that waterfront. A few of them were maintained by the employer after those strikes were over, but in the main, most of them were kicked to the curb. But what a lot of people don't realize is that men like C.L. Dellums, who was the uncle of Ron Dellums, former mayor, former member of Congress, former leader in the anti-apartheid struggle in Washington, D.C., C.L. Dellums succeeded A. Philip Randolph as the head of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters and was the head of the NAACP here in the Bay Area. Harry reached out to C.L. Dellums. A lot of this history has been buried, and for good reason, because the ruling class doesn't want us to know our history. Steve talked about the importance of international solidarity. And one of the things that Harry Bridges and others believe very strongly in is that rank and filers should have the opportunity to visit workers in other countries, and that they should not have to be leaders in order to make those visits. I've had the opportunity to visit many workers around the world, Bangladesh, Japan, Baghdad, Brazil, Vancouver, Washington, and Vancouver, Canada, in Toronto, Canada. And in each opportunity that I made those visits, I was not an officer. I was a rank and filer. One of the things that Steve didn't mention, and I'm glad that he didn't, was the issue concerning ILWU Local 10 refusing to handle scrap iron destined to Japan in the late 1930s as a result of the Japanese invading Manchuria. Franklin Delano Roosevelt wrote a letter to Harry saying that it was wrong for the Union to be concerned with matters of U.S. foreign policy. Harry said that that was our right as citizens to do that. And furthermore, he realized that even before the United States got involved with the war, that cargo could be used against American soldiers. And he was right when we look at what happened at Pearl Harbor. In 1935, I believe, after Mussolini had invaded Ethiopia, there was a community picket line. I'd like to refer to those as community blockades. There was cargo destined for Italy that was stopped. Steve talked about El Salvador. He made reference also to Palestinians, I believe. That was a very, very important struggle because it was the first time that a labor union had come out and opposed actions of Israel as it relates to Palestine. First time it happened, I believe it was in 2009 or 2010, after the Israeli commandos killed those workers, killed those humanitarian workers on their way with the humanitarian supplies. 24-hour shutdown at SSA. The block the boat in 2014, that was scheduled to be a one-day action. Lasted 4 days. Many of our young people became very well familiar with the anti-apartheid struggle, and in so doing, understood that it was now their turn to stand up, express solidarity. Local 10 members understand what real solidarity means. I cannot tell you that I think the last time that a Zimline vessel, which was the shipping company from Israel, whose vessel we did not work for Block the Boat, they haven't been back since 2014. That means and meant a loss of jobs for longshore workers. But no one is complaining because that's what solidarity means, giving something up to support others. It's not an empty slogan. I'm going to conclude with this. International solidarity is a necessity. I remind people all the time here in the Bay Area that they cannot look at the ILWU any differently than they look at any other union. The rank and file of today is a lot different than the rank and file of the union when I came in. Part of that may have something to do with the generations of struggle. I came along in 1947 with the development of the national security state and Harry Truman. I remember so fondly when I was in school how we were taught about Red China, how we have to get underneath our desk in case there was a civil defense attack. Well, not an attack, but prepare for civil defense. I was told that if we didn't win the war in Vietnam, that the domino effect would take place and communism would take, yeah, all of that. I'm a son of the civil rights movement. I watched on television, Huntley and Brinkley on NBC News, dogs attacking young people in the South fighting for civil rights. I was a member of the Black Panther Party. I was active at San Francisco State. I'm sharing this because so many of the young people of today don't have the benefit of that struggle. When they come into the ILWU, all of the benefits in the way of wages, medical care, vacations, and all of that sort of thing, a lot of them think that this happened out of the kindness of the employer's heart. Even when we require that they learn about the history of the union, it does not really hammer home until they're faced with the possibility of losing their jobs, which is what's about to happen right now at the Port of Oakland, with the Oakland A's attempting to build a baseball park, 3,000 condominium units, a 400-room hotel, and 1.2 million square feet of retail space. They understand that their jobs are on the line and that they're going to have to fight in the same way that all longshore workers have had to do of previous generations. As I mentioned, I'm going to be speaking on this subject again on Tuesday evening. There's going to be a major, important City Hall meeting where they will be dealing with this question of the baseball development. This is really not just a baseball park issue. This is a land grab and a real estate deal. And this is going to be very instructive for not only dock workers, but for the entire community. I want to thank you very much for your attention. I have learned a great deal from this particular conference thus far, and it's very important that the live streaming that I'm sure is taking place today is occurring. And I just want to say one quick thing before I leave the podium. I want to give a special thank you to the Labor Video Project and all the work that they have done through the utilization of YouTube to capture the struggle that we're engaged in right now regarding Howard Terminal. We no longer have to rely on KPIX, Channel 5, KRON, KGO, CNN, MSNBC for our news. We need to make sure that our young people understand the importance of struggle. We need to make sure that we elders are available and do all that we can to show patience and encouragement for our young people. An injury to one is an injury to all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Muy buenos días a todos y a todas. Para mí es un honor estar compartiendo con líderes tan importantes como usted, que está en la tercera generación de trabajadores luchando más allá del racismo y por el respeto de los derechos humanos y laborales de los trabajadores de todo el mundo.
Good morning to all. It's an honor for me to be here with you, a third-generation longshore worker, somebody who's been fighting in the struggle against racism for labor and human rights for all of us.
Yo soy Susana Prieto y soy solo una abogada mexicana en el norte de México, cerca de Estados Unidos y muy lejos de Dios.
My name is Susana Prieto Terrazas. I'm a labor attorney from the faraway town of Matamoros, so close to the United States, but so far from God.
Y he tenido el honor de ser invitada a las huelgas de Matamoros, que por primera vez históricamente 45,000 empleados de la industria maquiladora del norte de México se fueron a la huelga. A la misma hora, el mismo día, el célebre 25 de enero del 2019, en contra de los abusos de la industria maquiladora fundamentalmente norteamericana en México.
And I was invited to participate and help work with the strikers in Matamoros, 45,000 of them, who on one date at the same time went out, the 25th of January of 2019, went out on strike again and launched this strike movement against the majority U.S. transnational corporations working in this sweatshop zone along the border.
Y algo que no le va a gustar ni a usted, ni me gustó a mí, ni le gusta a nadie en el mundo que defienda derechos humanos o de trabajadores, es que todos estos trabajadores están sindicalizados.
And something that others will not like, that you will understand, que habían sido sindicalizados.
Todos están sindicalizados.
That all of these workers were union workers.
Pero pertenecen a sindicatos de empresa, a sindicatos blancos, a sindicatos que se sostienen de las cooperaciones económicas de los trabajadores y defienden patrones.
But these workers, though they were members of company unions, yellow unions. These were unions that were using the dues payments of the workers to support the bosses.
Algo importante que usted sabe, pero que debo decir, porque es el propósito que me tiene aquí en Estados Unidos, con líderes de su tamaño, es que parece ser que los Estados Unidos han puesto condiciones para la revisión del nuevo Tratado de Libre Comercio.
And what I need to tell you and somebody of your stature in the labor movement is that it appears that the United States has placed conditionalities for this new U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement.
Obligaron a México a modificar la ley. Ellos dicen que Estados Unidos quiere que haya libertad y democracia sindical en México. Y obligaron al Congreso a cambiar la ley para que ahora se respete la libertad de los trabajadores de pertenecer al sindicato que ellos quieran, que responda a sus intereses y no a los sindicatos blancos que dependen del sistema, primero del PRI, luego del PAN y parece que ahora también de Morena.
And one of these conditions was that imposed by the United States on the Mexican government was that there should be free trade unions, that workers be able to organize the union of their choice and not be beholden to the political parties in Mexico, parties of the bosses, be they PAN, PRI, or now even Morena, the new party of the current president.
Y yo quiero decirle que la ley se ha modificado, pero que la ley es una mentira. Y la ley es una mentira porque es solo letra muerta en un libro o en una computadora en que podemos leerla. No se cumple. Las empresas que vienen de Norteamérica han violado siempre nuestras leyes y siguen violándolas ahora. Y yo quiero pedir la ayuda de todos los líderes sindicales de Estados Unidos para llevar este problema al Congreso del Estado en Estados Unidos. Decirles que es falso que la ley haya cambiado y que quien está impidiendo que esta ley cambie y que los trabajadores tengan libertad sindical son las empresas norteamericanas, porque los sindicatos le rinden a ellos pleitesía y porque los sindicatos trabajan para estas empresas. Y que si no hay sindicatos en México que son corruptos, es porque hay empresas norteamericanas que son corruptas trabajando en mi país.
And I want to tell you that what I just said about the U.S. demanding that there be free trade unions is nothing really but a hoax. It's a hoax because it's a dead letter. It's a wording on a piece of paper that everybody knows it's not going to be implemented, no implementation mechanisms. There's nothing. These the conditions imposed by U.S. transnational corporations yesterday, as they've done it and it remains the same today, they are with the corporations that are exploiting us are the ones responsible for keeping these laws meaning nothing but the paper they're printed on. And so that's why I am here in large part to ask for your support and your solidarity in the struggle that we wage against these U.S. transnational corporations that are the ones responsible for keeping us down, for exploiting us, and also the trade unions can't be beholden to the corporate agenda. The trade unions in this country have to be speaking out and organizing against those very same companies that are exploiting you here and that are exploiting us at home. And so we need to build common cause and raise this voice that it's a hoax, that what we really need is, yes, we need independent unions, but we're going to arrest them and we're going to demand them and it's out of our own actions that we're going to win them and take that voice to the Congress, to the U.S. Congress.
Nosotros en Matamoros tenemos ahora, como resultado de la nueva ley, obtuvimos históricamente un sindicato nacional independiente y estamos haciendo historia en México. Un sindicato que no responde a intereses de partidos políticos, ni a intereses de empresas, ni a intereses de nadie que no sean los obreros y las obreras de mi país.
And in our country, we have just made history. We have won a historic battle, that is, the creation of a new independent union, the Independent Union of Industries and Services Movement 2032, which is beholden and answerable and accountable to its members and its members only, not to political parties, not to trade union, not to corporate or any other interests other than those of the workers that they serve.
Esto lo hicimos el 5 de junio, hace un poco más de un mes. Y ¿sabe usted lo que le dicen sus empresas norteamericanas a los trabajadores mexicanos en Matamoros? If you change your union, your traditional union, the union that is working for me, you will be fired immediately. That is corruption. They are not respecting the law in my country. So if the Congress in the United States wants that the Mexico change the law, the Congress must work with American companies in order to respect the laws of the workers in Mexico. So help us. That is the main purpose of our visit here. Joel is one of the members, from the first members of our union in Matamoros. But we will work in whole country because the whole country have problems because the unions that we have in Mexico are from the Partido Revolucionario Institucional, are the systems unions. So we need your help in the United States, in Canada, and South and Central America, in Pakistan, in all the countries of the world, in order to have the new era of the juniors independent of the companies, and the companies must have to respect the law, not only the United States, but in Mexico, in the all countries in the world. So we must be organized around the world in order to reach this goal. Because the capitalism, you know what is the capitalism, because you are talking about socialism, so I think so. You know, is destroying all the workers around the world. They want more money and more money and more utilities, but the gauges are down and down and down. And I don't know how you are, the workers in the United States, but I know who live the workers in Mexico, and it's terrible. It's not human. Many of them live like animals, don't have enough money to go to the university and to follow some dreams in order to have a better life. Not the workers, but not the sons or the children of the workers. So we must fight in this country, in Mexico, and the whole world. And I want to have a compromise of the unions of the United States.
A commitment.
Yeah.
Compromiso es
A
commitment.
commitment of the unions of the United States in order to be together, to fight together, because you know what happens if we are separate. Somos un puño. Y sí se puede.
The ILWU has had a working relationship with unions in Mexico. I think the last big struggle that I remember our involvement in had to do with the privatization. They wanted to get rid of the dock workers, the Mexican dock workers, Alan.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right, and we were down there in Tampico,
Right,
and then in Veracruz.
exactly. All we need to do is to receive, when I say we, I'm retired from the waterfront, but not from the struggle, as you can see. But if we can get all the particulars about the struggle with the Mexican workers, we can develop a resolution that we can get adopted at Local 10 and hopefully be able to get that sent to the Labor Council and also have that submitted to our Longshore Caucus. That's how things work with a simple resolution first. We have had some very significant struggles that we have been able to wage and win with the writing of a resolution by a rank and filer, because we have democracy. And once the executive board and the membership adopts that resolution, then we can send it on to other locals up and down the coast for adoption. We have done this in many, many instances for various struggles. And so we would be honored to do that. And not only that, but perhaps you will be able to speak at one of our union meetings. I don't know how long she's going to be in town, but
We can get her back.
yes, oh yeah, yes, yeah, that can be arranged. So all things are possible.
Muy bien. Gracias.
Okay.
Muchas gracias.
Good night.
Ah, me podía hablar.
Oh, one other thing I want to mention. We understand the difference between free trade, which is controlled by the corporate interests, and fair trade.
Yeah.
And we also understand when you talk about language in the agreement that does not have any teeth, we call that lip service. Words that have no meaning. And they will agree to anything without any implementation, just for the sake of saying, see, we have language in here about unions. But capitalists are opposed to unions. They hate unions unless it's a company union. And that was one of the reasons why we had the 1934 strike, because we had company union that really did not represent the rank and file. So we understand that history very well. And we also know that the struggle continues. We were against NAFTA. We understand that there has been a change in the government in Mexico. We hope that that's going to be a positive development, but we also understand power comes from down below, not the top. So the cornerstone for democracy is the establishment of strong unions.
Claro.
We believe in that very strongly.